All right, welcome to the BAM YouTube channel. I'm Byron Lazine, along with Leo Pareja, the CEO at eXp Realty. I already see, as we launch the video, hundreds of you already in the live stream here today. And make sure that you hit the thumbs up button if you want these, breaking streams as soon as information surfaces. Make sure that you like this video. That'll get it out to more people. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And for anybody who's watching this, you've got a friend, a colleague in the industry, go ahead and share this video. This is live. Leo and I had a conversation this morning. Leo is on vacation on the West Coast, so it is earlier where Leo is than where I am. But Leo is very passionate about clearing up any information that was on the pod yesterday and that I discussed yesterday, and making sure he helps serve not only his agents, but agents across the industry. So just to set the stage here, again, Leo Pareja joining us, eXp Realty CEO. Glenn Sanford, of course, was the founder of eXp. He's the CEO of eXp World Holdings and the chairman. Leo, earlier this year, was named CEO. Leo and I have not spent any great length of time together before today. We've emailed or texted in the past. But this is going to be the first time we spend any significant amount of time together. I've heard from multiple industry leaders that Leo's the right guy for this position. He's a true leader in our space and somebody that everybody should get to know. And here's an opportunity for so many of you to get to know Leo. So 3 weeks ago, I was covering California forms. Leo, you and I talked about this a little bit this morning. I was covering California forms, and we did 3 weeks in a row on the Real Word podcast on those California forms. And when I was, reviewing those, a lot of red ink on the California forms, I highlighted one brokerage in particular of doing a really good job on their forms, their buyer representation forms. Okay. And that would be, I'm going to go to it here. That would actually be Leo's company, exptoolkit.com. You can check it out. I'm not with eXp. I'm not promoting eXp or anything like that. What I am promoting for sure is the work they've done on the buyer representation toolkit. I mentioned on the pod for 3 weeks. I think this is one of the best open sourced buyer representation toolkits you're going to find. There's not many other leaders that are doing this in the industry. So I made that clear for 3 weeks on the pod. I'm just restating that here in case you haven't been following along the Real Word. Of course, yesterday, I'm going to go back to the screen share here, Bobby, just so you're ready for that. Of course, yesterday, I did another Real Word podcast, and the first topic we covered of the 3 topics was Ricky Kruth's now deleted post. Just talked to the CEO of our brokerage, and after August 17th, no listing agent at our company will be allowed to share their commission with the selling agent of any of their listings. I know Ricky, we like Ricky at BAM. He's going to be speaking at bammania.com. Ricky and I haven't seen eye to eye on everything. I believe in open discussion in our industry. That's why BAM doesn't have paywalls. If New York Times breaks the story, there's not going to be a paywall on nowbam.com. We don't believe in that in our articles. I believe in an open discussion. I decided to screenshot Ricky's post that was since deleted because I saw so many agents across the country commenting on this post, and we covered it on yesterday's Real Word podcast. This was Ricky's next post clarifying, and Leo can respond to Ricky's edits here if he'd like. Listing agents who think they will continue to offer a buyer agent commission moving forward are living in a dream world. It was being talked about and discussed on Labco on Facebook. Okay, so, and you can take that down. That's where we're at today. I'm honored to have Leo Pareja, the again CEO of eXp Realty, here to clarify his position, where eXp is going forward, and obviously where we can have an open discussion here about what the industry should be considering and some of the options that are available to the industry. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Leo to give his thoughts on yesterday's podcast, yesterday's post, and where eXp is moving forward.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize if there's background noise. As you've said, I'm actually in the lobby of a hotel. Not my hotel. I couldn't find signal in my hotel, so since you and I hung up, I've been roaming around Catalina Island trying to find anything with more than 2 bags up and down. So, but
We
as you
thank
said,
you
I'm
for
on the
we
West
thank you
Coast.
for we thank you for taking the time. We know how important this industry and the agents in it are to you to be willing to make the time to do this. So thank you.
Yeah, no. So, for the folks that don't know me, I've been in the industry 2 decades, and I think it's unique that as the CEO of a public company, I'm probably the only one that actually holds a real estate license. So I sold close to 4,000 homes in my 16 years as a licensed agent. So I did this in the kitchen table, in the cars with buyers, for a very, very long time, part of my life. So this is very important to me. On March 15th, when we all collectively found out what NAR had agreed to, my inbox broke. I received hundreds and hundreds of calls, emails, text messages, direct messages from agents. And Byron, the messages were, I'm terrified. I'm not sure how I'm going to feed my family. I'm the primary breadwinner of my household. I've done nothing wrong, and I want to continue to do what I do. And so on Monday, March 18th, I went live on a stream like this, and we garnered, I think at the peak, 53,000 concurrent views. And by no means do I think I'm special or I'm that smart. I just know that we're all collectively trying to navigate this, right? Because I think what agents do for consumers is noble. It's the single most expensive transaction of their life. It's highly emotional, and it's full of friction and complexity. So as you pointed out, we rolled out a buyer representation agreement probably within 14 days. We're already on B2, which is what you shared. And this is a direct response of our best interpretation of the rule changes, which are ever changing. And as you can imagine how fun it is for us in 50 states, the different interpretations, and we could touch on Colorado in a little bit as well. So all of our goals here, both with buyer representation and listing agreements, is to interpret the rules that are both going to be enforced by MLS, right? So the first thing to how we ended up here, Rick and I were having a casual conversation, as I do with many of our agents. If you're part of our company, you know how involved I am, but agents call me all the time to ask for clarification on things. And what I was referencing was broker-to-broker compensation. Broker-to-broker compensation on August 17th will be deleted out of all MLSs. So the apparatus of co-oping that we all grew up with is just no longer going to be available to us. That's not an eXp thing, that's an MLS thing, right? The co-op field is being deleted. And so Ricky's comment, and I did ask him to take it down because we were rolling out our paperwork, which I've shared with you. And by the way, open sourcing that as well on the listing side. So the universal offer of compensation has been removed. And that's the biggest distinction that shifts going forward on the listing side. I think the agents who can articulate this as clearly as possible are the ones who are going to be preparing sellers for the shift. And I still think it's an agent's fiduciary responsibility to tell a seller how the world's worked. And when you present comps, that you actually show, hey, for this price, this seller concession to the buy side was paid, right? A net execution price is what sellers are going to need to understand. So as confusing as everything's been since the 15th, we've been as loud internally and externally, and we make our content available just like you with our lives with no paywalls. You don't have to be an eXp agent to have access to the content, because we think this is a collective, overcoming that we have to do. And I've read a lot of the comments, and some people said this is semantics, and that actual statement is very correct. It is semantics, but the semantics and the paperwork and how we articulate it is the difference between potentially getting us into litigation again. James Dwiggins just wrote a great article on Inman saying, if you share broker-to-broker commission, you will be sued again. Anthony Lamacchia, again, there's probably the two other CEOs that are being as loud as I am, who said, it's still your fiduciary responsibility to explain any and all forms of market, right? I think my stance is, as long as it's legal, ethical, and enforceable, I'm open to supporting that. But, we need to make sure that agents are prepared when they go take a listing, that this process they used to be familiar with is no longer going to be available to them. In the paperwork we rolled out, we not only rolled out a new listing agreement, we also rolled out an addenda to active properties. And Byron, I haven't heard anyone say this, and I really want your listeners to hear that. If you have active listings that aren't under contract prior to, you should address the co-op transition period since that is going to be deleted, and no one's talked about that yet. So
No, I agree.
to sum it up, and then I'll stop, and then you can kind of go back and forth. And it is a mindset shift. Listing agents will take a listing and be the middleman in sharing commission. That is going to no longer be an option. So a listing agent can be instructed to market compensation or concessions or however your state and MLS allows it to, but you're just not going to be collecting it on behalf. So the seller can absolutely pay concessions towards the buyer agent fees, but we cannot share commissions anymore. And that's the crux of the settlement, and as well as most of the rule changes. So I'll pause right there, and I'm happy to go deeper into anything you want to talk about.
Thank you. Of course, really appreciate that. And again, this is Leo Pareja, CEO of eXp Realty, jumping on after the post and pod yesterday to really discuss and an open discussion, just like he alluded to and I shared earlier with the eXp Buyer Toolkit, which I believe is the best I've seen from anybody in the industry. It's open source. So I love the mentality coming from Leo, wants to have an open discussion. It's how we're going to get better together here as we move forward as agents of change in this industry. Leo, you mentioned James and Anthony being proponents of exactly what you're saying here as broker owners for, great businesses for both of them. Neither of them have near the business that eXp Realty is. Over 80,000 plus agents worldwide. eXp Realty, of course, Real Trends had them #1 in transactions. So we're just talking, universes apart when you're comparing eXp Realty to an independent brokerage model. And that's why I think this is very interesting that this conversation between you and Ricky was obviously made public by Ricky, not by me. I'm gonna just go to it again to recap here, because I only screenshotted it and brought it to everybody's attention. I thought it was interesting because you're the first major brokerage potentially to take this type of a position here, where no listing agent in our company will be share the commission. And so that's what you're saying is not. And I don't want you to speak for Ricky. Ricky and I'm sure we're going to get on here and have a conversation at some point, as well as we have in the past when we've done debates in the past. But when Ricky edited it, he made it look a way that this is the only business model. Listing agents who think they will continue to offer a buyer's agent commission moving forward are living in a dream world. If we just go to the NAR settlement FAQ sheet, what should listing brokers advise their clients about the prohibition of offers of compensation on the MLS? No compensation will be an option on the MLS. This change will not prevent offers of cooperative compensation off an MLS. So there is a lot of confusion in this industry. NAR is clearly saying, obviously also open source, that this change will not prevent offers of cooperative compensation off of the MLS, and it will not prevent sellers from offering buyer concessions on an MLS. Are we interpreting this? And we'll bring Leo back up here, obviously. Are we interpreting this FAQ from NAR in what Ricky's sentiment is and what you just shared to be something different? Or are we predicting where the DOJ is going to go with this?
Yeah, that's probably the best question to ask, Byron. So since it was first announced, and then there was the July date, and then there was the August date, and we've seen MLSs constantly evolve. Just like with our buyer representation agreement, we took a crack at it, we put it in the field, we got feedback. We're always looking for feedback, and I can guarantee you over the next 6 months, we'll see constant evolution, right? So the first thing on the MLS, the co-op is deleted.
And we all agree with
the
that.
Seller can. So let's start there. And so if you look at the post, and again, I personally asked Ricky to take it down as we are rolling out and educating our agents. I didn't want to cause confusion, and Ricky's very good at writing copy and getting people's attention. I joked with him and you that the next update I have for my agents, I'm going to give to him and you, because you guys probably got more attention than I can garner by emails and direct communication. So
we'll hook you up with the senior editor at nowbam.com. Any story you want to break, we're happy to do it. And all your eXp agents are going to get to read it for free. They won't have to fight a paywall to do it.
But look, the reality is, I think, we're all just trying to serve consumers, because, they're going to still need professional representation. And we're all grappling with what you just pointed out very eloquently is somewhat unclear, right? There's what the NAR settlement states, and then there's what we're seeing local MLSs in states, which we can touch on. Colorado kind of taking an outside position on certain topics. So the offer of compensation as we know it is deleted. You cannot put it inside of the MLS anymore.
Totally.
If the seller, and by the way, it's your fiduciary responsibility to explain to the seller all the different forms of marketing and the pluses and minuses and what historically performance has done, instructs you to do that, and you so choose to, and you're following the rule set, that's completely okay. We just want our agents to be prepared to navigate a world that changes dramatically as a departure from what the process has been. So the clear statement I want to make is broker to broker commission sharing as we knew it is deleted from the MLSs, and we're trying to make our paperwork reflect of it. We have agents with varying degrees of business models on how they charge and how they articulate that and how they market that, and I'm completely okay with it as long as it falls within the rules.
So, Leo, am I not, though, to understand as an agent, a team leader, as a broker, when NAR puts out, and this is their most updated FAQ, you can go on their site today, where they say this change will not prevent offers of cooperative compensation off of the MLS. Am I to assume that that's wrong?
No, I think the assumption, we've seen them already shift, and I think it's the implementation. To me, Byron, what I would ask of anybody is show me mechanically how we're going to do this, and I'm trying to make sure that we create tools and documentation in order to empower our agents to do that. So the first change you're seeing here that's meaningful is that behavior where we walked in and negotiated a commission for both sides to be shared exactly in MLS per the way we all grew up learning how to do it is being deleted. So we're reflecting our paperwork. Now, if an agent is instructed to by the seller to market seller concessions or any form of compensation following the NAR rules, and it's written into the listing agreement and it's compliant in that state, in that MLS, that's perfectly okay. What I do want to say very clearly, and I'm sure you're starting to hear, is the enforceability of this. We're getting early signs that MLSs are going to be having very punitive fines for both the agents and the brokerage for both missing buyer representation agreements. We've heard some of the enforceability will be to return the commissions. So again, our job as a broker is to provide the support for agents to deliver the value and service they've contracted with the consumer. And so we're just trying to navigate as much of this with you guys. And so if we miss something and don't get it right the first time, I'll be the first one to say, we missed the mark. Let's amend. Let's move forward. Because the reality is, collectively, none of us have been in this world before. I've been in this industry for a couple decades, and everything we knew is shifting. And so we're just trying to adapt as quickly as possible and be that supportive, apparatus to our agents' businesses.
Yeah, Ed Zorn, I don't know if you've covered or if you've followed any of this. I covered it on the Real Word podcast when we were covering the car forms, as well as the great work that you guys did at eXp with your buyer toolkit. Ed Zorn is counsel for California MLS, and he's taking the position that it's kind of what Ricky wrote, where you're never going to be able to offer cooperative compensation off of the MLS, because that is basically what Ed Zorn says is what the DOJ wants. So Ed Zorn wants the industry to acquiesce to the DOJ now, and just kind of go with the assumption of just because they've suggested that they might want that, we should bend the knee and start doing that, despite the fact, according to NAR, that the current settlement says brokers can, and to Leo's point, in certain states, offer cooperative compensation as long as it is nowhere on the MLS. So are you on Ed's side where you would just kind of go with the assumption that DOJ is going to get their way, or are you on the side that I'm on, particularly where I'd like to kind of see how things work out? Because as an industry as a whole, I think, listen, I've covered your buyer toolkit. I think you guys are ahead of the curve. I think the majority of brokers are behind right now. And I think the majority of local associations, which is why at least California is trying, Colorado is taking a stance. Most local boards are doing nothing except waiting for the last minute. It's very troubling. But would you go ahead and say that you want to go all the way to what everything DOJ has alluded to? Or do you want to work through some of the process before we get to any final say from the DOJ?
I think the toughest part about this situation is exactly what you just pointed out. We haven't seen anyone at scale, statewide, deliver stuff. That's why we made the not fun, and as we roll this out, not perfect, but iterating process of creating forms and trying to get as many data points as you can garner. So your question about the Ed Zorn comment, we talked to Ed quite a bit as well, is, well, the DOJ's signaled very strongly they do not want to see commission share. And so it's very important that we as an industry, in an agile manner, try to adapt as best as possible. So, to say I've given this analogy to people. I feel like I turned 16, I got a car, and I was going 65 on the highway, and then all of a sudden, East Plains attorney was accused us of doing something conspiratory. I think we were all being ethical and doing business as the way it was taught to us, right? So I think your question is almost in that same vein, right? What is right or wrong here? We're just trying to serve families. And so we're trying to navigate, these are the rules given in certain MLSs in certain states. And so we're trying to roll out documents that are in plain English, right? That you don't need a JD to be able to read at a kitchen table with a consumer. And so our interpretation is, if broker to broker commission sharing is deleted from the MLS, we want to make the paperwork as reflective as possible. We want to train and coach agents on articulating what you can and can't do to consumers. And where it ultimately gets there, I think, is going to be a windy path that's going to take months and months of trial and error. And as we're starting to see some states completely say we're going in a different direction, which we're still navigating and trying to understand. You pointed out on your podcast that our buyer representation agreement said not applicable in Colorado. And the agreement I just shared with you is the same way. So again, to answer your question directly, we're creating paperwork as reflective of the rules that we're interpreting. And we're going to see an evolution, and we're going to see people's, either create new business models to support what they think is best. And we're here to support our agents as long as it's ethical, enforceable, and follows the rules of the state they operate in.
Leo, I'll say it so that you don't have to. I think if anybody is looking clearly at the situation and the last 12 months of NAR, you could say, and listen, I've interviewed Kevin Sears, president of NAR. I've got a lot of respect for him after that. He's in a very tough position. But I'll say it clearly for everybody. Your local MLS has way more power than your local board, and then NAR. And Leo saying it as a professional CEO, saying, hey, we want to make sure that paperwork reflects MLS rules. Don't be fooled here. MLSs hold all the power in this industry moving forward. So I got two questions. I got one more question about Section 32 in the FAQ on NAR. And then I do have a question about your listing paperwork that you guys have put together in your own version too. So if this is true, which it's based on the settlement, based on what NAR is putting out, this change will not prevent offers of cooperative compensation off of an MLS. If this is true and it is compliant with your state MLS, to your point, because that's where my point is, that's where the power is going to be, then you have no problem, I'd assume. Maybe you do. Do you have a problem or no problem with somebody saying, hey, my business model is to educate sellers the benefits, the advantages, and or disadvantages to being able to use their option, use their freedom of how they want to market the property to offer compensation to a buyer broker upfront, so the seller understands this is my number going into the deal. I'm not going to get renegotiated on any offer. And then on the flip side, I think where Ricky's leaning towards, and I'm looking forward to obviously having a further conversation about Ricky, but based on his text, what he's leaning towards is being the business model that says we're gonna do listings, we're gonna charge you a listing commission, we're never gonna share. It's not even an option here. Even if you, the seller, wants it, go down around the corner and work with another broker that provides that option. Here's two different business models. If it's allowable in the NAR settlement, which NAR says it is, do you have a problem with either business model existing in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I would put the question back to you on how do you then couch the buyer representation requirement. So let's just say in the example you presented, a buyer engaged with a buyer's agent and had a fee, and it was lower than what was advertised. The buyer representation fee cannot exceed what's in the buyer representation agreement. So as my interpretation of the paperwork with our team is that there's truly decoupling, where the seller is being represented by the listing agent, the buyer is being represented by the buyer's agent, and especially in the consideration of dollars given. So, again, that part of the NAR settlement you're quoting, I think, flies very confusingly into what the MLS rules on how that will take place. So our position as of right now is that we're going to make sure that we're reflecting that broker to broker commission sharing on the MLS is no longer going to be available. So we're trying to make sure that our paperwork is as reflective as possible. And again, if anyone who's heard me speak before, we're learning all collectively in real time, and how this rolls out and how it plays out and how we see it in the field. So if we need to adjust as we go forward, but this is our best stab at it. As you said, most states have not rolled anything. Right? We haven't been given, and this is, we're weeks away, right? We're doing the best we can to support our folks. And again, as we get new information, if states make different rules and MLS has changed, CRMLS changed concessions yesterday from a dollar amount to a yes or no. Bright pulled out clear cooperation and compensation out. So I would say it's an hour by hour, day by day evolving topic. And if you want to have me be a regular update with you, I'm happy to do it as best as we're interpreting it as possible and operationalizing it at scale.
Yeah, I'd love to have more conversations with you as things evolve. For those of you that are just joining us, we have Leo Pareja, CEO of eXp Realty. The reason we're having this discussion and we're going so deep on something as boring as commission and cooperative compensation and all of that is in reaction to yesterday's Real Word podcast, where I talked about Ricky Carruth's now since deleted post. Leo, of course, is on vacation. That's why you hear the background noise with Leo. Really thankful for Leo coming on and spending all of this time with us. We've got a little bit more time left before he's got to run back to his family vacation, but that's why you hear the background noise. Leo wanted to jump on and speak to the industry, clearly from his position, despite the fact that he's on vacation. And I really do believe that that's where Leo's head and heart is at. He wants to speak to this industry. He wants to move forward an industry about agents of change, just like we believe at BAM. Like, hey, let's be about the change. Let's lead the change. He's shown me that in what eXp has put out with their buyer toolkit, making it open source. I've been a fan of that because it's the best that I've seen as of yet. And I'm not with eXp. I'm not pushing eXp or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I see and what I read. What I do want to ask you, Leo, is if, again, just going back to what NAR telling us, and I know where you're at. You're I mean, you have the same mindset I do. Hey, the MLSs have all the control. This is my words. This is how I'm reading into what you're saying. And we want to be compliant with MLS. The NAR settlement is, kind of what it is. But right now, the rule book is a little gray because you've got this settlement. You've got state MLS rules. NAR says that this settlement doesn't prevent sellers from making the choice to say, I want you, my agent, to go ahead and offer either a concession on the MLS or even offer cooperative compensation, of course, off the MLS. So with your listing paperwork right now, and I can bring it up if you wanted me to, I have it in front of me. With your listing paperwork right now, if I were a seller and I'm sitting in front of, Kyle Whistle from San Diego, shout out to Kyle, and I'm saying, Kyle, hey, I want to, I want to offer some comp here. I'm a sales guy. I believe in incentives. I watched Warren Buffett's, annual address this year, and he says this system has been rock solid for decades because incentives work for salespeople, and I want to make sure that I'm able to get this property the most attention possible. Okay, it's important to me to get this deal done the way I want to get it done as the seller. And it's important to me to offer an incentive out there to buyer agents. Of course, I understand, Kyle. Hey, it's off the MLS. I understand it's got to be off the MLS because you've got rules to follow. But how do we do this, and how do we put this into writing? How do we put this into writing into your current iteration of listing forms, Leo?
I muted since you pointed out the background noise. I apologize. I should have been doing that between speaking. No,
that's great.
That's the correct question, Byron. That's the exact question. So in our paperwork, you would scroll down to paragraph 21, which is additional terms and conditions. And that paragraph should spell out what it is that you, so the distinction is we're no longer having it programmatically be, I get this, you get that, right? So we're saying, and we're training to the fact that you gave a very specific example. You and the seller would be telling you exactly what, like you gave a very clear example. A very other clear verbiage I've seen floated by other experts is sellers willing to entertain any request and put it in the purchase contract, right? Because again, the enforceability and the rollout will vary greatly from state to state. And I think especially for folks that have as much reach as you do, and other leaders in the space, we got to make sure that we're specific, that you got to go back to your local state and your local MLS rules. Because I said it earlier and I'll say it again, the enforceability, and you pointed out, Byron, and my background, I spent a lot of time in the MLS world with my last company that I co-founded called Remind, is going to vary, and it's going to be punitive. So, again, when we're saying we're protecting our agents to make sure there's no further litigation, but I don't think anyone wants to be surprised by a $5,000 or $10,000 fine for something that they accidentally did. So this is a ever evolving subject. This is something we're all learning together. And again, I think this is a moment to, share as much information as possible and collectively get as better as possible. Because at the end of the day, this is about keeping the consumer in the center of the transaction, giving them all the tools available to them to market their home in the shortest amount of time possible, and delivering a fiduciary responsibility of net execution, which is what we're all about.
Okay, so Leo, I'm gonna switch off here the document and go back to it if we want to. That's your current version of the listing agreement. Your eXp's listing agreement is 4 pages. The buyer agreement was 1 or 2 pages, if I'm not wrong, 2 pages, I believe. So, eXp, when I look at the contracts that they're putting together, they're taking cues from the Consumer Federation of America, whether they're directly or indirectly taking cues from CFA. They're keeping the forms simple, 12-point font and above, shorter forms. This is what the Consumer Federation of America has suggested. This is in line with DOJ thoughts. Forms that don't need to be read by an attorney, but that a consumer can understand those. And so, Leo, and I don't know if we have right now, the buyer toolkit for eXp is public source. You can go on that website and get the forms that they're using today. The listing agreement isn't on the website yet, but you shared a link with me. Would you want is that available for for folks or not yet, Leo?
I will get you a format that is like, we literally rolled it out yesterday. We're training on it. Our state meetings were more popular today than they were in previous weeks. So again, like, look, we're here to support the industry. So we'll provide all of our information, and you know, going back to the CFA has given us very nice shout outs that it was clear and concise, but it goes back to the agility and kind of who we are as a company, right? Glenn was an agent. I'm an agent. Wendy's an agent. You know, the response is, okay, if these are the rules of engagement and I need to present this agreement to a consumer in the driveway, right? It's a cold lead, it's a sign call. It's going to be a very combative and uncomfortable situation if I stick an 8-page, hard to read, complicated agreement. We said, okay, what can someone consume? It's got to be in English, not legalese. And that's our mantra going forward. And again, I'm the first one to say, we're not going to get it perfect because nobody knows what's about to happen. We're just trying to interpret all the data points, right? NAR settlement, MLS rules, DOJ whispers, hinting, injunctions, whatever you want to call them, and do what's as best as possible to move forward as an industry. And just, like, again, even when I did the live originally, some folks said I had some toxic positivity, which I'd never heard before. But I'm not saying that I was happy about the agreement whatsoever, the settlement. But what I do know is if these are the new rules of engagement and we still need to support American families moving, we want to be able to give our agents the tools they need in order to do their job.
Leo, and so right now, just going back to the form that we just reviewed, your advice to eXp agents that have a seller sitting in front of them that want to have the freedom to offer an incentive to buyer agents. We understand, and I'm going to go back to the screen here, Bobby. We understand, everybody understands at this point that no offers of compensation will be on the MLS. Okay. NAR is saying that you can make offers of cooperative compensation off of the MLS. Okay. So if I'm a seller and I want to do that, you're suggesting that if I'm signing, you know, this form where here's the listing broker compensation, doesn't say anything about, you know, cooperative compensation in section 5 at all. It actually doesn't even give you an option to put it into section 6 for concessions. Concessions that are notified as fully negotiable. You're suggesting that if that agent's getting that direction from the seller, they want the choice to do that, that they're going to come down to section 21, additional terms and conditions, and write it in, and obviously use language that makes clear that that offer that the seller is directing of compensation for the buyer side will be off the MLS, but you would support that if the MLS locally agreed that that was okay in the state. And of course, if NAR settlement didn't change, and of course, if DOJ doesn't step in,
yep.
and you would approve of that being in this section here, 21.
And the reason we structured it this way is think about the apparatus we all live by. The offer of compensation was a unilateral that if for any reason it was tampered with, upon settlement, I could take it to arbitration and get my money. I mean, that was a functioning apparatus we dealt with. That is gone. So whatever offer is going to be made behaves a lot. It is a concession. As in an example, if you see a house that's offering a roof credit, a flooring credit, that has to then be reflected inside of the purchase and sale contract to be enforceable. There's no mechanism to enforce that because the broker-to-broker co-op is deleted. So this is a marketing instruction, but most importantly, what everybody needs to take away is it needs to be written into the purchase and sale contract. And so, you know, and again, as this rolls out, we could amend, we could tweak. We, you know, as you pointed out in our buyer kit, we're on version 2. And again, this is all a brave new world for all of us. And we're just trying to do, you know, what's best with all the different signals. But I think the way you're couching it, and again, I want to commend you and your team for putting out as much information, because I think right now what we need is more coming together and having very open conversations like this so we can educate each other and do what's best for the consumer.
Yeah, and I think you got, I think you, Leo, and eXp Realty as a whole for being willing to open source that buyer toolkit. And I get the same impression you're going to open source this listing contract that we're sharing here. I think this is the first time we're sharing it online, that anybody's sharing, because it's you said it just got done within days here. So
so you have it first. Yes, I'm open sourcing it because, again, our goal here is to be an agent of change and to empower folks to serve families.
Love it. So listen, this is a moving target, Leo. I think I know you got to get back to vacation here with the family, and I really want to thank you from the industry, from all the agents of change out there. I want to thank you for taking the time to say, hey, this is important to me. It's important that I articulate it not only to eXp agents, but to all agents across the country. I want to jump on and talk through it. There is a massive gray space that is happening in this industry right now. NAR is doing a poor job. Besides that FAQ, because I'm reading that FAQ one way, I'm seeing other brokers, you mentioned some of the names, say a completely different business model is going to be the only business model. That's kind of taking cues from what DOJ wants the script to be. DOJ's got their script that they want people to be saying. Catchmark has his. And there's not a same page that we're working off of. There's going to be differences in states. But you would think at this point here on July 24th, the consensus would be a little bit clearer. Some of the information would be a little bit more clearer. I commend you for trying to take a stance, one, and make some clarity around where you're going and your willingness to adapt as you receive new information. So, Leo, thank you so much. I know you got to get back to vacation, and if there's anything that you want to end with, I'm happy to give you the time to do that. But if not, we'll get you back to the family.
No, so I appreciate you letting me come on. I think the biggest thing we all need to remember is we're in this together. Like our industry cooperates with each other, right? And that's what I think delivers phenomenal representation to both buyers and sellers. I think the way we do real estate in this country is the most efficient on the planet. As being someone who operates in other countries, I know this. I'm saying this emphatically, and I just think we have the most liquid, most transparent, most efficient real estate market on the planet. And I just want to protect that for everybody and just be an agent of change, like you said. And, you know, we won't get it first the right time, right? But I'm here to listen and adapt as quickly as possible to empower you guys with as much information as tools as you guys need.
Thank you, Leo Pareja, CEO of eXp Realty. You and I are going to hook up in Miami at some point, do a proper sit-down interview, dig into your background, and we'll talk about whatever's on the agenda at that moment. Get back to your family and enjoy the rest of your vacation. Thank you so much, Leo. I'm going to stick around, Bobby, and just wrap up, but thank you, Leo. All right, we got Leo back to his vacation. Listen, if you're still with us, thank you. There's so many hundreds of you that have joined this live stream. I want to thank you. I even got Leo, the CEO of eXp, to use the BAM phrase, agents of change. Remember where you heard that first. I love that Leo was running with that. We're gonna see eXp agents hashtagging agents of change. I'm all about it, though. I want everybody in the industry that's doing this as a commitment to their community, as a commitment to their clients, to run with that type of language. It's important that we become agents of change, that we lead through all the gray area that NAR is putting in front of us, the gray area that your local board or maybe even your local broker is putting as an obstacle in front of you, certainly DOJ with what they've leaked out in the past. So want to thank Leo. That was really great. I'd encourage you to look at their buyer toolkit. And I also just want to mention a couple other things. Ricky Caruth, who kind of started off all this content that we had in the Real Word podcast yesterday by making that post that is now deleted that I shared at the beginning of this stream. Ricky's somebody who's a friend of BAM. Ricky and I have debated in the past. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but we see eye to eye on a lot of things. Ricky's going to be at our event in October 17th and 18th at Circa Las Vegas. This is the event of the year if you want to move forward as an agent of change. Ricky's going to be on that floor. It's an open platform. We want a variety of opinions and discussion from all angles. If you're not familiar with BAM Mania, go to bammania.com. Grab your ticket. BAMX members get 25% off of BAM Mania. Today on BAMX, inside of our community, we've got Jared James joining us. I think he's in the office now. We've got Jared James joining us for office hours. And we have a huge discount, 20% off of BAMX using the code NEWS. If you want to join the BAMX community, again, I said it at the beginning of the stream, we don't believe in paywalls on our articles or our podcasts or these breaking news. If we're going to show you how to do the things that move you forward in your business, that's for the BAMX community. Jared James is going to be joining us on our live stream mastermind today. You can use code NEWS to get into BAMX, to be a part of that live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern today with myself and Jared James. You get access to all of our courses, all of our social media templates, our video scripts, our email scripts, our blog scripts. All of that lives inside of BAMX. You can use code NEWS as a thank you for jumping on this breaking news. You can get 20% off, and you can have access as early as today to the mastermind that we have with Jared James at 3 o'clock. Every week, we're uploading BAMX with more and more. Again, Ricky, who started this whole controversy, he'll be at BAM Mania. Go to bammania.com for tickets in Vegas for that. And again, just another thank you to Leo and eXp Realty, and Leo for taking time out of his vacation to come in and clarify where they sit. I think we have a better understanding where eXp sits on all of this. Listen, what I took out of that is they want to be ultra safe. They want to be as safe as they possibly can. All of these brokers just ponied up a lot of money in these settlements, and they don't want to be in that position again. And so I think they're going to lean on the side of caution. And as agents and as brokers and team leaders, that are maybe not running a national publicly traded company like Leo, we need to understand the rules and the business models together as agents of change. We will do that. I know BAM is committed to that process of getting the right information out on an open platform. I want to hear all sides. I want to hear all business models. I know that you do too. Thank you. If you haven't yet done it, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you back here on more BAM breakings on the hot sheet tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern on the live tab, 6:30 on the West Coast. Until then, folks, to the freaking low.